Now I'm going to move to the bio for Hazel, and there's much more on her website. She has an extensive background, so you can read that, but I shortened it. So Hazel Archer-Ginsberg has given many presentations and workshops for the Theosophical Society at the National Center in Wheaton, Illinois, on topics such as the Celtic goddess Brigitte, the fates, and various festival offerings. And you can find that on their website. I've watched, I think, all of them. Hazel identifies as an anthroposoph. How do you say that? Anthroposopher. Is that right?
Yeah,
Anthroposopher. Okay, anthroposopher.
that's a
Yeah,
wonderful.
okay. A striving student of spiritual science, bridging the cleft between science, art, and spirituality. She is an interdenominational minister specializing in rites of passage for women, young and old. So I'm going to spotlight you. Uh, let's see. Now I need to scroll up 1 second. Um, whoops. Okay, 1 second. I have to get it back. It disappeared on me.
So great to see everybody's faces. Hello, everyone. Hello out there in the ethers, dear friends.
Okay, what do we have? Paul,
We're
I'm not getting
participating
here we go.
tonight.
There we go. All right, spotlight. There. Now,
So yes, greetings, beloved Earth citizens, right? I think we can all call ourselves that. And I really appreciate that you're taking some time here to change the rules in the game of life. So I'm inviting you tonight to become not so secret agents of alteration, spiritual change makers. Yeah. Part of a conscious assembly of illumination workers, endeavoring to take up the mission of building up various thought forms. Yeah, we're going to use our cognitive imagination. So, yeah, it's important to do that because, when we were children, that sort of came natural, didn't it? We were able to use our imaginations and create all kinds of worlds and play. And so now as adults, we can use our imagination and apply it to our thinking. And we can create realities that way. And we can use it as a counterforce to all the negative energies that are working in the world. And yeah, we know there's a lot of that going on too. So we have to shore up our gifts and bring them to bear. And really, it can be as simple and as glorious as picturing ourselves as, our true selves as beings of bioluminescence, right? Maybe you want to see yourself as a waving particle of plasmic quantum agape. How's that? Yeah, I mean, we can radiate transformation, activating transformative universal truth, blending our harmonious tones and colors together. Right? We each have a vibration, we each have a gift, we each have a tone, a color. We have so much to share, right? With each other, with all the other human souls that are aligned with the passion of compassion. So I see it as like a lodestar conclave. We're this conclave, and we're shining together to permeate the nimbus atmosphere with goodwill, hallowing and haloing the whole earth. So yeah, that's my little introduction, my pep talk here. And maybe some of you might think, well, that's a little abstract, or maybe that's too poetic, right? Cut to the chase, lady. What's the plan, Stan? Yeah, I get it. I know it's important to be practical. But I also think it's important to, to create, to really set up a soul mood here, especially in cyberspace. To have a little humor and a lot of reverence. So I hope that will come across today. And yes, we have to be grounded. We have to be practical. So let me start by describing how the practice that I want to share with you came about. I always think it's interesting to look at some origins of things. So I was leading a study group in Chicago. I did that for many, many years. A few people here online have been part of that, so I appreciate that you're here. And in one particular one, I mentioned this concept of the 100th monkey. Are you familiar? It's the idea that change happens when one individual does something new in a consistent way. And then others see that this new practice is working, so they take up the practice. And then after it's spread 100-fold, there's a shift. It's like a sea change happens, and then it is felt by every individual. So all of the individuals, even if they hadn't even seen the new behavior, are able to take it up. So I believe in this theory. I've seen it happen. I know it's possible. And maybe you've seen it demonstrated in negative ways, right? We can think about the first thing that comes to my mind is the Kubrick film 2001: A Space Odyssey. Do you remember that iconic scene where the monkey first uses the tool, right? It's a tool at first, and then, well, like the symbolism in the film, and unfortunately, like the monkey, we often take tools and turn them into weapons. But we also know that it's possible to transform the sword into a plowshare, right? So anyway, this concept, this idea came up during our study because we have these wonderful discussions. And let me preface that it was at a time where we were doing a preparation for Easter. And it was Easter, because we work a lot with the festivals. It's still very much a part of my life. But this was a special one. It was the preparation for Easter 2020. I don't know if you remember that particular Eastertide. Ironically, right before the pandemic began in earnest. Yeah, something was definitely in the air, pardon the pun. So an idea came forth, and it really felt like a real wake-up call, a key call, something to unlock what was going on, and to join us together to co-create a creative thought form of goodwill. An egregore, to consciously connect with the divine spiritual powers on the inner planes, to enlist their aid for healing of the self and the world. So I'm going to turn this screen share back on here, because maybe you're wondering, what is an egregore? Well, it's a Greek word, and it means watcher. A watcher or a guardian of a thought form created by human will. So in the workings of the Kabbalah and in Rosicrucianism, an egregore is an occult concept referring to an ensouled thought form that emerges from the collective imagination, fueled by loving emotion and the focused intentions of a group, which builds up to become the creation of a non-physical entity, a helper, a kind of guardian angel for the group soul, right? That we're creating. right? This collective guardian can then, that we create, can then send back spiritual influences to us that heighten the members of the group in return. So it's this, I'm making this motion here, this lemniscate motion, right? Because we do our work as human beings to use our thinking to create an imagination, to build up a picture of goodwill, and then we send it out into the ethers. We join together in this, and then this guardian, this watcher, is built up in those astral realms and is able to give us then inspirations and influences that feed and help us in return. So it's this building up and this ascending quality that can happen. So yeah, any symbolic pattern that has served as a focus for an imagination that stimulates heightened feeling, you have to have some juice around it, right? Any kind of charged energy will build up an egregore of its own over time. And this can be good or bad, right? And we can be conscious of this or not. So I'm saying let's be conscious and let's direct our energy into a pattern to co-create a positive egregore, a watcher that can form around our goodwill. So yeah, I mean, a good example is, we know about these gods and goddesses of every culture, past, present, future. And they are at the center of vast egregores, charged with specific kinds of attributes over the ages. And I put this part of the slide here has a little depiction from this book by Neil Gaiman called American Gods. So I don't know if anyone has read that book. Now, I'm not talking about the series. They made that into sort of a horror film. But what I loved about the book was that it really depicts this idea, a modern idea of an egregore. So what it talks about is the fact that the old gods, the ones we're seeing here, are losing their power in America because the immigrants have been subsumed into the new melting pot culture, and not as many people are feeding the egregore of their archetypes. So the old gods are fading in prominence. Their egregores are growing weaker, and a war simmers between them and a new generation of gods fueled by technology. So I found that to be really interesting because I feel like we are experiencing these new gods of technology. And so anyway, I wanted to bring that up as an example of a modern egregore. And yeah, because this story really demonstrates that these egregores are psychic astral entity that will continue to be and grow as long as thought energy nourishes and informs it. This slide is all about other terms that we can use to describe an egregore. So archetype is a good one. I love this idea of an archetype. We can all live into that. And group consciousness, right? We do share a lot of that. This is what creates the zeitgeist of our epoch. There is a sort of shared collective reality that we all sort of agree on, right? And I think what's very popular now is this idea of morphic fields, how we do share this etheric world. The formative forces are part of the vibrations that make up our reality as well. So yeah, and to further explain the working that we can do together, let's explore what this positive group energy can be. And we can look at the Tibetan concept of tulpa, which means emanation or manifestation, right? A being which is created through thought power. And I like to think of it as a type of willed, supersensible helper. Now, back in Madame Blavatsky's day, Theosophists brought this idea of creating positive tulpa thought forms to the modern public mind. And long before that, the Rosicrucians have been using this powerful tool for centuries as part of their esoteric initiatory training and for building up cosmic energy fields for healing. So as a practicing Rosicrucian, I was taught that whenever we meditate, pray, study, contemplate a sacred image, like those of the major arcana or the glyph of the tree of life, whenever we build up the imagination of the rose cross, for instance, or while creating an inspiring work of art, literature, or science, we radiate redemptive thoughts and ennobled feelings which benefit all other members and humanity as a whole. So through concentration exercises, we can build thought forms in the astral realm where we can meet in the spirit. And yeah, even on an everyday level, maybe you've had this experience, you're thinking about somebody and they call, right? Maybe these days they text, right? But thoughts are very powerful and we are all connected. So I'm saying let's use that to our advantage. In Theosophy and Anthroposophy, the modern renewal of Rosicrucianism, we talk about the workings of various choirs of angelic beings who act as helpers for humankind. And we can use our ensouled thoughts to enlist their aid. We can add our energy to their virtuosity. When we practice spiritual exercises or meditations with the goal of co-creating a beneficial egregore, which extends beyond the usual limits of space and time. It's really this psychic entity. The egregore exists between the material and spiritual worlds and is connected to both. So it's a creation of our intentions, and if used in a constructive, benevolent way, exists as a connection to the divine, assisting and facilitating our connection, right? We could always use a little help staying connected to the spirit. So we get so distracted in the world, but to know that these beings are there and want to work with us is important, but we have to do our part. They're not going to come in and inspire us without our making an effort to invite them in, to show that we're consistent in our thought form building process. Then they know that we're reliable and welcome that co-creation. So yeah, this is a process. And of course, it can be intensified if we have an initiation process, which is designed to open the soul forces to the spiritual worlds through the egregore. So the power of the watcher, the guardian, to help and inspire us increases over time through the repeated actions of those working in a consistent way. I really can't stress that enough, how consistency, it's changed my life to do daily meditations, to create affirmations of the imaginations that we're building. And for me too, I as I mentioned, I find that the cycle of the festival life really helps to set a good rhythm. Yeah, we need rhythm in this life. And yes, egregores can also attach themselves to places, right? We think of the spirit of place, right? My husband and I just came back from a trip to Ireland. We went with some anthroposophical friends and really could feel the energy of ancient Hibernia in the sacred sites and holy places. Yeah, it's a force that lives in nature. It lives in the caves, in the forest groves, in the spring-fed wells, the ancestral farms, places where people have worked and worshipped or gathered throughout the centuries. These places become ensouled as the spirit of place. So these locality-based egregores, they've been fed with prayer and intention for hundreds of years by the local residents and pilgrims, becoming influential spiritual vortexes. And I'm sure you've had those experiences. Even in the city, you can have that. And especially places like old churches or cathedrals with all their iconology, right? They tell stories that pique our imagination. And the grand pipe organs, right, filling the atmosphere with music, imbued with reverence for long ages. This leaves a lasting effect. And of course, we know that these cathedrals are often built on top of ancient sacred sites, known for their healing powers. We can feel how these places act as supersensible portals to the unseen worlds. And our habitually ensouled thoughts become potencies, whether they be constructive or destructive. Our thoughts become forces that take on a life of their own, affecting our individual and collective astral and etheric bodies, our health and well-being, our way of seeing reality. So yeah, it makes sense that our selfless, loving thoughts are healing and redemptive, adding to the uplifting powers of our angelic champions. We also know more than ever how all the lies and jealousy, the criticism, the hate-filled thoughts, how they spawn and feed demonic entities. So we must be conscious and take full responsibility for the spiritual beings that we create, that we're feeding with our thoughts. So yeah, on the gray side, right? We have white magic, we have black magic. On the gray side, we can think how various memes have become so popular, right? Infecting the collective unconsciousness. We could also experience the many fads in popular culture, right? A fad it's like a temporary but very potent egregore. And these principles can easily go over to the dark side, becoming a kind of propaganda, powerfully used in advertising and in the media, taking the form of repeated messages. We hear the same thing over and over again. It must be true, right? And these become subliminal mind control. And please forgive me if I put this up here, but I think it's important to reference the fact that, yes, Adolf Hitler used subconscious hatred and anger in the minds of the German people after their defeat in World War I to create a demonic entity that caused world destruction. The lynch mob mentality is an excellent example of a negative, destructive, evil egregore. And I had to put this up here because the voodoo of Wall Street, I don't know, it's interesting. Yeah, I feel like it's another kind of example of crowd mentality in a way, right? It's These few manipulators are selling strategically and the whole market plummets. I don't know. It feels like voodoo. It's controlled by what these hardcore materialists actually call with a straight face the invisible hand. So that's ironic and interesting. And other examples of negative egregores can be found on battlefields, right? Sites of massacres. You go to these places and it invokes fear and dread. This is a negative egregore. We can feel it in our bones. But, dear friends, on the positive side, I want to tell a compelling story of how the esotericist Dion Fortune was able to build a psychic watchtower to save the shores of Glastonbury from the Nazi invasion through her use of a potent thought seed egregore in her time. Yeah, Dion Fortune and her workings in the Western mystery tradition really had an impactful influence on me as a young woman. Her occult books and novels really shaped my worldview. So yeah, I mean, we could do a whole seminar on her. What do you say, Hope? Maybe next time. Anyway, when I learned that immediately following Britain's declaration of war in 1939, Dion Fortune began a series of regular correspondences with members of her community, the Fraternity of the Inner Light, while enemy planes were rumbling overhead. And I was inspired by how she organized a series of visualizations to formulate, quote, seed ideas in the group mind of humanity. Archetypal visions to invoke angelic protection and uphold morale under fire. She wrote, we must create archetypal ideas, archetypal ideals. What is sown in our highest thought will grow and bear seed. So wartime conditions made it impossible for people to assemble in person. So she sent out weekly communications containing an esoteric lesson, which included a Grail imagination. And this was connected with the Glastonbury site. And a detailed description of the Rose Cross meditation to be built up gradually on the inner planes. A certain specific hour was set when, no matter where they were, everyone involved focused on the symbols they were building to co-create a protective egregore as a key call to the spiritual powers on the inner planes to enlist their aid in England's greatest time of crisis. So from her book, The Magical Battle of Britain, Dion Fortune declares, let us meditate upon angelic presences, red-robed and with magical tools armed, patrolling the length and breadth of our land. Let us visualize and picture these great presences moving as vast and powerful forms along the coasts, backwards and forwards, from north to south and east to west, keeping watch and ward so that nothing evil may move unobserved. So as the war developed, not only national, but also international accord was promoted. So people all over the world were tuning in and practicing building up this protective positive egregore. And with staunch optimism, she guided her fraternity through the dark days of the London Blitz, continuing her weekly missives, even when the bombs came through her own roof. She talks about it in the book. It's really, it's amazing. And according to actual historic records, the night that was the planned invasion of the United Kingdom, it was due to launch, the night that it was due to launch, it had the code name Operation Sea Lion. Okay, this is what the Nazis named it. Her community got word that it was on the horizon. So her community did this large group meditation, completing the working of the Rose Cross and setting up a shield around the British Isles that created a virtual wall of repulsion, making the British Navy seem unbeatable in the unconscious psyche of the Nazi army, which so overwhelmed the enemy on the eve of the invasion that the Nazi commanders actually became confused and changed their mind about the strike and stayed home. This is true history. And so history tells us that Operation Sea Lion sank. It's a powerful story. And dear friends, we too are at war. It's a psychic war. It's a battle for the human soul. And it seems to me that the world it feels like we're like under a spell of an unconscious evil egregore right now that feeds on our unconscious apathy, our fear, our hatred, our doubt, our anxiety. The spirit of America has turned from the image of the Native American goddess, a personification of the dove of peace, Columbia, the goddess of peace, has turned into the grotesque visage of Uncle Sam. But, friends, we, the people, have the power. We have the free choice to create noble thought forms together, to offset these adversarial forces, to consciously rise in our thinking, to collectively build a cognitive imagination, to co-create a healing, protective egregore, a watcher, to work with our highest intentions for the evolution of humanity. So what do you say? Okay, so I've given you a little background. Maybe you know now a little bit about what an egregore is. And so I'd like to share a suggested thought seed imagination that maybe you would want to take up. And it can be as simple or as complicated as you like. But the basic image is of the earth as a star, the earth as a new sun, enkindled by our shining human souls. So this thought seed can be used as an anchor for our willed visualization, which we can enliven with our own unique imaginations, something we can use as a foundation, especially, if possible, at 10:10 a.m. or p.m., wherever you are, so that the thought form moves like a wave across the globe. Now, I chose 10:10 because, well, for one thing, I love this idea of what I've learned is people call them angel numbers, right? We have these digital clocks now, right? And we see 11:11, we see 12:12. I don't know, something about that it just rises something up in me, and I just feel like, oh, that's just wonderful. And to me, the number 10 is the number of completion. So I chose this idea of connecting at 10:10, morning and evening. But please don't worry if you can't tune in at 10:10. Just have this imagination whenever you want, whenever you think of it, which can be many times a day or perhaps only occasionally. Right? And for a while, I was using it. We talk in anthroposophy about working the 6 basic exercises, these essential exercises. And one of them for the will is to do something every day at a specified time. At first, you want to do something that doesn't really have any meaning, just to get this into your will that you're going to show up at a certain time. But then eventually, I used that to hook into the 10:10 to be able to create this and build up this egregore. Because I feel like the spiritual world, when we make a date with the spiritual world, we say we're going to be someplace at a certain time. They expect us, they show up, we show up, and things can change and happen. So it's an idea for you to take up if you like. And so that was the original imagination, but then the original inspiration for a collective verse came about. And it came from one of the members of our study group, Elizabeth Swisher, who's, I don't know if you're out there, Elizabeth, but she's living in Vienna right now, so she's probably asleep. But when I spoke about this idea of the earth as a sun, she knew immediately this verse by Herbert Hahn. She had been working with it in German. And so she shared it with us. And if you know German, you can see that in the next slide, when I show you the English translation, that I took out the only if and the only when to strengthen the thought form, bringing in the energy that, yes, it is already happening. It's not only if, it's not only when, it is happening now. And so this one is for thinking. And so we worked with that for quite a long time. And then I thought, well, we have these other soul forces of feeling and willing. So I thought, okay, so I wrote 2 other verses that kind of use the same format that Herbert Hahn set up for feeling and willing. And in the slide here, you can see that underneath, I put this reversal. Why? Well, it's like doing the Rukshao, the backward review at night before bed. It's when we view our day in reverse. It really strengthens our vital forces when we don't start from the beginning and go to the end. We go from the end and go back to the beginning. It does something to our thinking. It causes us to think in a more succinct way. So you can take a screenshot of this and work with this if you like. I'm happy to send you copies of it if you will as well. And I'll just read it right now. For thinking, when I think light, my soul shines. When my soul shines, the earth is a star. When the earth is a star, I am a true human being. I am a true human being. The earth is a star. My soul shines. I think light. For feeling. When I feel love, my heart sings. When my heart sings, the earth resounds. When the earth resounds, I am a true I am. I am a true I am. The earth resounds. My heart sings. I feel love. For willing. When I will life, my hands help. When my hands help, the earth heals. When the earth heals, I am a free human being. I am a free human being. The earth heals. My hands help. I will life. What can our lives and the world become if we all think light, feel love, and will life? It could be as simple as that. I think light, I feel love, I will life, with a focused heart mind. But even if every day at 10:10 or whenever you think about it, you just stop for a split second. You look up from the screen, whatever you're doing, from the dishes, you take time away from the kids, and you make the intention in your imagination that the earth will become a sun, that the earth is a sun, and every human soul is a star. Can't hurt, right? We're weaving a win when we do this. We can garner gold in this way. It's short, it's sweet. We can do it anywhere, anytime. And yes, it's even more powerful when we do it as a group. Maybe you've heard the phrase, when two or more are gathered, right? Then the energy gets amplified. You know, I've always been inspired. I think about these monks, right? Or the little children who meditate for world peace. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, nasty stuff going around in the world, but this little homeopathic dose makes a difference. It's like biodynamics. You don't even need a lot. You just need that 100th monkey. You just need that square root to just push it over into the sea change that it's meant to be. So I think we can take an inspiration from this. So yes, our goodwill becomes a cosmic energy field for healing. Seed ideas in the group mind of humanity to co-create our highest intention for the evolution of humanity, that the earth may become a sacred planet, a sun for the New Jerusalem. Shambhala realized, right, that Christic seed planted in the center of the earth, spiritualizing matter, and every human being, the divine embodiment of our original star self. Right? I mean, you can think about how the earth has a life, right? The earth is a being. It's physical and spiritual. It was born. It will die. And in death, the spirit can be born. So we can be part of this transformation to spiritualize matter. And what does it mean to be a star, right? To live as a star. To me, it really feels like a benevolent sustainer of life, right? To be life-giving. The sun is life-giving, right? To be conscious co-creators working for the highest good, shining, healing, loving light on all, like the sun. Doesn't discriminate, shines on everybody, like the stars. What is sown in our highest thought will grow and bear seed. Yeah, it only takes the square root of any number of people to create this change. So that's what I wanted to say to you tonight. We can stop here for a bit if you like.
Okay, yeah, let's do a 5-minute break and we'll pause, or probably we'll probably stop the recording actually, because for discussion we don't record discussions. So usually. So
Thank you, everyone. I know some folks have to leave, and I appreciate you being here. Bless you. I hope to see you in the ethers.
we're
Peace.
all one.